All right, well, we're going to get started. I want to thank our sponsors, Bavarian Bakery and Deli and Tres Dulce, for sponsoring this event. And I want to thank Tessa MacDonald. Did I say it right? MacDonald?
Yes.
Um, from Big Investment Service. And I'm going to let you take the rope here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Tessa and I work for B.I.G Investment Services in Dover. I've been with B.I.G for a little over 3 years now, and I'm the marketing director there. I also have a small business doing marketing for my company On the Rise. And so I'm excited to be with you guys today. I know that it's early and everyone's busy, so thanks for caring what I have to say. I certainly hope that today can be valuable for you. I'm certain that we have quite a variety of people. Maybe you are in full-time marketing, maybe you just dabble, maybe you are just the person in your office that got stuck with doing some marketing stuff, some social media stuff. So I'm hoping that today can be valuable for you and that you'll find something that adds value to your business or the business that you represent. So I want to talk about building content that attracts, building content that resonates with consumers, and how we can do that in a way that feels authentic as well. So let's jump in. I also do want to say, if you guys have any questions or things that come up as I'm going through, please just interrupt. Don't save it for the end. I'd love to have just more of a conversation, especially if it's something that I'm talking about at the moment. Just feel free to chime in. But okay, let's get started. If I can figure out how to work my screen. Okay, great.
Good
So
morning, Tessa.
good
This
morning.
is not a question, it's more of a compliment. Mike from Allen Insurance. So you're modeling good marketing by the way your picture is displayed. So
Oh,
just wanted
great.
to point that out. Good morning and welcome everybody. I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So the goal for today, and this is just an overview, is let's talk about how the heck we're supposed to keep up with all the changes in marketing, social media. How do we be authentic? Why is that even important? How do we diversify our content formats? And how do we repurpose those into multiple places and different platforms? And then an actual example of how to do that, because I think a lot of the times we hear these topics, but when you go to visualize it for your business, you're like, wait a minute, what does that actually look like? So I want to walk through an actual example of how to do that. So just out of curiosity, and I know a lot of you can't chime in because you're driving or whatever, but I was just curious, do you guys struggle more with creating content or repurposing that content? Do you feel like there's one that's more difficult?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Shauna. I work for a nonprofit, the Ronald MacDonald House Charities. My struggle is because I work from home and I work remotely, so I'm about an hour and a half away from the house. So creating that content, working with a major brand is very, very tricky. There are a lot of guidelines with McDonald's and all the things. So wording. So creating content is my struggle just because I'm so far away.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I know when at B.I.G, we have a ton of stipulations and compliance, and it definitely adds another layer of difficult into the mix. So I feel your pain on that.
I am. I have both. I'm new to the real estate field. And so being out of my element, it's hard to really put in commentary from myself. I'm depending on a lot of other commentary. And when I read it, it sounds great. But some of them I have to kind of go through my broker and she's like, oh, you might want to think about this and this. So I'm kind of scared on some of the commentary, okay, is this factual? Is this going to cause, a media stir here? Yeah. And then oh yes, I am so so social media challenged.
Well, I would imagine it's extra.
I'm an old school girl.
And hey, that's okay. There's a lot of old school things that are still super relevant and valuable. So just bringing that to social media, that would be great too. But it's hard when you're breaking into a new field.
Yes.
Anybody else? Nope.
I would just say the boom factor, getting people attracted to your content is a
Yeah.
big
Ooh,
one.
that's a
But
good
like
one.
I have the same thing too with you, with I think someone else just said it. Um, Compliance. You know, you don't want to send something out there that's not compliance approved, and then, you know, what can you
Amen.
pick that is? So that's a struggle too. But yeah, I just said, I just mentioned that boom factor, getting
Yeah.
people interested, and because a lot of things that we talk about as business owners and things that we have to do aren't interesting, right? So a lot of times we have to tag along with something that is. So that's a struggle to find those things.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in a on platforms that have so much social media and so much pieces of content. It's like, how do you stand out? So that's an excellent point too. And we'll talk about that one a little bit too. But okay, well, that was helpful. Thank you guys for chiming in. I just was curious where we're at. But let's go ahead and talk through how to keep up with changes before we dive into some of that content. I think that I personally feel the most overwhelmed with keeping up with changes. Everything that I'm telling you today could change next week, which is very disheartening. And to me, that's what always feels the most overwhelming. So I wanted to just give you guys a few quick tips and things that I do personally to help me stay ahead of the game, or even to just stay on trend. So the first thing that I do is I follow accounts on typically Instagram, or TikTok even. These are just a few accounts that are industry leaders. This is specific to marketing and social media. But I would also say if you could find people in your industry that are, even if they're not leaders in marketing, but they're just someone that do social media really well, make sure you're following them. They don't have to be local, but they can be. I think that some of the struggle of keeping up with all the changes in social media is that you feel like you have to go out and look for it. And as soon as you start doing that, you're immediately adding minutes to that time spent in research. But if you're following accounts, then it's just always in your feed. So even if you're just on a scroll break and you're not even working, but you're following some accounts that are going to inspire you or teach you something or tell you a change that's happening, it's already in front of your face and you don't have to go searching for it. So it's just another easier way to make sure you're consuming information that's going to help you. Same exact concept with newsletters. Pick a few that you feel like is valuable to you. The ones that I have listed here might not be relevant for you. So do some research into ones that you feel like would be helpful. Again, if you can find something that's industry specific, it's going to make it even easier. But that just might not be possible. So, and also just a note, when I first got into marketing, I subscribed to like 30 newsletters and I very quickly became overwhelmed, and it kind of was not the point, right? The point is to kind of narrow down a few trusted resources that prevents you from having to go out looking for the information, but it also lets you say, okay, here's 2 things that I know that I need to implement into my marketing strategy. So just pick a few, don't try to do them all, pick a few that are relevant and run with that. If you're newer to marketing and maybe you don't have any marketing experience, I would say look at joining some online communities. Facebook has a ton of groups for this. Also subreddits. Reddit is an amazing resource. I think that a lot of people forget about Reddit, but if there's like a very specific or even a niche category that you're looking to learn about, go to Reddit and join that subreddit. People on Facebook groups and subreddit, they love to chime in. They love to give you their advice. And so it's a really good place if you have a question or if you're looking for a very specific answer, try those 2 places because it's free information and you're pretty much guaranteed that someone is going to chime in and give you some advice. If you've been in marketing for a little bit, that might not really be something that you want to do because you're usually the one with that knowledge, but there's certainly specific cases where they've been helpful for me too. And then last thing, and this might feel not as relevant, but I would say make sure that you're looking at your analytics, even if you're like, oh, I don't even have any analytics. If you're posting on social media, you have them. They might not be super informative, but they will be valuable enough for you to evaluate. And I grouped it here under changes because I think a lot of the times we get kind of caught up on what's trending, what's changing, what do I need to be doing this month? And that is true. And it is important to stay relevant and to make sure that we are implementing some trends into our social media. But it's also really important to look at your specific analytics, because just because something isn't trending anymore, if it's performing well for you, then keep doing it. It doesn't matter if some random newsletter is telling you, okay, this trend is out. If your consumer and the people on your page are loving that content, then keep doing it. It doesn't matter. So make sure that you're keeping everything personalized and you're looking at that analytic and you're evaluating your strategy so that you know, maybe that bombed. Maybe you're like, yeah, that sucks. Let me never do that again. That's fine too. Try it. Not every trend is meant for us, but in the same scope, don't just cancel out a trend because you feel like, oh, that's cringy. I don't want to do that. I'm not funny. I'm not cool enough for that, whatever it is. Make sure you give it a chance because it might be exactly what that person is looking for to connect with your brand. And then just last tip on this is our good friend ChatGPT. I love chat. We are good friends. And something that I like to ask it often is, hey, can you just give me 2 things that someone in social media would need to know for the month of June? And the reason that I ask it kind of specifics like that is because if you go in and you ask it an open-ended question like, hey, what's changed in social media? You're going to get 100 things. And it's going to feel overwhelming and you're not going to know what pieces of information to pull from. So I always ask it, hey, like, what are the 2 most important things? Because now I have 2 tangible things instead of an like incredible list that might be true, but it's not going to be helpful because I can't put all of that into play. And then always make sure you include the month, because things are constantly changing. And you could certainly do this on a weekly basis, but I just personally think it would be a little overwhelming. And of course, you know, chat is going to be helpful, but these other resources are going to be more consistent and in your face and have a little bit of like backing to them. But sometimes you miss things, and chat is kind of a good way to make sure that you're catching anything that you might have missed. For example, I asked it, I think it was last month, I asked this question and I had missed that TikTok was taking away the ability for people under 18 to scroll past a certain time of night. I'm like, make sure you fact check me on this because I didn't pay attention because it wasn't relevant to me, but it was just very interesting. I think after 10 p.m. it starts showing like meditation prompts and like get off your phone prompts, which is great. I mean, it's great, but if you are someone that markets to, you know, younger generation, that would be really important for you to know. And that was just something that I had missed, and chat was able to give me that information. So it's kind of a good catch. So those are just a few of the things that I do to try to keep up with the changes. But like I said, just to kind of recap, just to kind of recap, make sure that you're testing trends, but know that not everything is for you, and that's totally fine. But still try it and test it and just keep what works. So, okay, let's move on to a little bit more of content related things. I had to hit you with a few analytics because I love analytics. I think that it kind of sets the tone for why something is important. And if you are someone that has to kind of run things by, you know, a boss or the owner or whatever it is, then I think statistics kind of gives you a little bit of a backbone for that. So I always share them, even though I know most people are really bored by them. So sorry, I'm only giving you 3 though. The first thing is businesses that blog get 67% more leads than those that don't. There's a few.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Can you tell me the difference between loading a video and a blog?
Between what was that?
Like if I just took a video and had a conversation and posted it,
Oh.
is that considered a blog or no?
No. So a blog is usually a written piece of content that would go, typically it lives on your website.
Oh, okay. I have a website. Okay.
Yes. And so the reason that that statistic is probably true, and there's certainly a few reasons, but the one that I have found to be the most true is that blogs are pieces of content. And when people are on Google and they're typing in questions and your blog is able to answer that question, Google loves that. And Google, did someone ask something?
No, I just said, got it.
Oh, got it. Okay. So when we are writing blogs, it's not like the old school type of blogs. If you remember when they first came out, people would be like, oh, I just wrote my blog. And then you're like, oh, I got to go read it. So
yes,
it's not really like that anymore. Blogs aren't like super exciting pieces of information. It's just a way to tell Google, hey, people are looking for the information here and I have the answers, and I have it in 10 different blogs. And so Google is just pushing you to the top. It's going to help your reach in the algorithm. So when I say businesses that blog get a lot more leads, it's not because people are just like obsessively reading your blog. It's because you have information and you're telling Google, hey, I am the expert on these questions that people are looking for. So they're going to say, okay, and they're going to push you up further in the algorithm.
okay, thank you.
Sure. So that's super important. And then video content generates 1,200% more shares than text and images combined. This does not mean that we're not sharing text and images, right? We need to be diverse because people consume content in all kinds of different ways. So we want to make sure that we're still doing those things. But if you've been hesitant to post a video, this is just a good reminder. You know what, I really hate video, but I definitely need to add that into my types of content because clearly it's going to pay off.
Okay.
And then I hate this one, but customers need 7+ touch points before making a purchase. Now, as a disclaimer, I'm pretty sure that I could find articles to back any type of number of touch points if I really wanted to. The marketing funnel, I went to a marketing conference last fall and I sat in one session that talked about like the marketing funnel and like how many different touch points. And then I went to another one where they said the marketing funnel is dead. So I think that the marketing funnel and the touch points, there is some valid points to it. Like most people aren't making a purchase right away. That is true. Like most of the times we need to see a few different pieces of content. Maybe it's a billboard, maybe it's a website, maybe it's social media, whatever it is, before we make a purchase.
I also believe consumers are savvy now.
Yes.
I think they're looking, they're being, a little smarter. Now, some of us, of course, impulse buy. We all do it sometimes. But, majority of the time, especially the larger the purchase, and that's what category I'm in, you need those points. But like you said, how many, who knows, right?
That's so true. And you are 100% right about the bigger the purchase. I think that is such a good point. But yeah, you're right. We know kind of where to go. A lot of people, they're not just looking at social media, but they're going to go check your reviews too. And so, yes, great point. I will say one thing that I was thinking about where I feel like this is not as relevant is influencer marketing. And I don't know if any of you guys have used that before, or if you're even in an industry where that would be relevant. But I think that, when it comes to influencer marketing and kind of paying someone to represent our product or service, influencer marketing is more expensive. And sometimes it's a little shocking. I think especially because it's still like semi-new. And so when we see like prices for influencers, we're like, whoa, that is so expensive. I can never afford that. And that might be true for your brand and your business. But I think that the reason it's so expensive is because there's this built-in loyalty to that influencer. If they have people following them and they've built that brand where they're like, hey, go buy this shirt from Amazon, and they're modeling that shirt and they have these followers, there are so many people that are going to instantly go buy that shirt. They're not going to check reviews. They're not going to price check. They're just literally going to go buy it because someone that they trust is telling them to do that. So influencer marketing, I
I
think,
believe that so heartily.
yes. And I've fallen for it. I do it too.
I have too. That's why I believe in it.
I have people that I trust that I know they're doing the research for me. So yeah, I'm going to listen to them. But you know, so I think that influencer marketing is great. It's expensive, but I think there's a reason for it. So I just wanted to mention that because I do feel like that's an area that is just a little bit different than our most of our touch points. But anyway, I share that to say it's important. We need to be repurposing our content for different platforms. Does it need to be this magic number of 7? Maybe. I don't know. Let's do as many as we can. So let's start talking about authentic content. I sometimes hate talking about authentic content because I feel like this whole push for authenticity on social media started, like 8 years ago. I remember when it went from this like super polished social media and everything has to have like a call to action and be filtered and all of that. I remember when that started going out the window and people started just like posting to their stories like what they were doing for the day or posting something that was unfiltered. It was like this movement, but that was years ago. And now we're like still talking about being authentic. And it's kind of like whenever I hear it, I kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, I know I need to be authentic, right? So I don't want to harp on that too much, but I want to give you maybe like a little bit more reasoning behind it, because I think that we all know it's important and we might even know why, but what does that look like and how can you actually make sure that you are being authentic? So the first thing and the whole point of authentic social media is to humanize your brand, to show the human behind the brand. And the reason for that is it creates relatability, right? You're posting that your kid's running in the background. Oh, I can relate to that. Okay. And you do these things over time, and eventually you get to be the trusted person in your industry. People trust you for, you know, maybe a little bit on like a personal level, but they also trust you in your industry. And so that's kind of like the whole point of why we want to be authentic on social media. But I wanted to give you guys kind of 2 stories. The first one does not have a happy ending, so I'm just disclaiming that from the beginning. But so my dad, who is 77, needed to buy a tire for his trailer, I believe. And he was telling me this story about how he went to his local, I guess, hardware automotive shop, and they had it, but it was very expensive. And he was like, no, I'm not buying that. You know, I don't need it to be anything fancy. I don't need high quality. I just need a cheap option for my trailer. So he left and he got on Amazon. He ordered the same product on Amazon. So he thought. So it comes from Amazon. He gets the package and he's like, oh, it's missing half of what I was looking for. And he's never returned anything to Amazon in his life, but he returned to Amazon because it wasn't the right product. Well, then he said, I'm going to Lowe's. He went to Lowe's. He found what he needed. He found it at a good price and he bought it. So as small business owners, we hear that story and we're like, oh, dang, that sucks. Like we want the person to end up at the small business, right? We don't want the big box store to win. But the reason that I share that is because sometimes when I say, or when you hear post authentic content, we think, okay, if I do that, I'm going to win every single customer client that there is. And the reality is that's not true. Like being authentic is important, but so is having a good product and a fairly priced product. And sometimes, and those all work together. It's sometimes 2 of them are more important than the other one. But I'll give you a happier story now. My husband, who is 33, I think, he needed a part for his lawnmower. And first step, is a procrastinator. So he went to Amazon because he needed it there the next day. And I think it was a lawnmower blade. I don't know. It was something for a lawnmower. So he went to Amazon, he ordered it, got it. It came the next day, and it just didn't quite fit. It was just a little bit off because it was made from China. So he had to go to the local hardware store. He walked in, told him what he needed. They had excellent customer service. They knew exactly what he needed. They went to the back, they found the product, they had it. He purchased it in that moment, mowed the grass, everything was great. He didn't care how much it cost because he needed it then. And he was so happy with the experience of someone knowing exactly what he needed and having it in stock that the price didn't really matter. So we like that one, right? Because, oh yes, small business owner wins. They have the product. Now he's loyal to them. He has told everybody about them. I think he even posted about them to Facebook. And everyone he meets, have you been to this hardware store? They're great. They have everything. They're so nice. So now they've made a loyal fan out of somebody who just happened to go there on a whim. So I share those stories because the reality is we have to be authentic on social media because it will eventually create that loyalty and that trust. The same way that when someone comes to see us in person at our store or meet with us in a business meeting setting, depending on your industry, we are authentic there and we are personable and we have good conversations and we represent our brand well. So it's the same thing on social media. But I wanted to give you those two stories because I think a lot of people preach so much about being authentic and posting content that resonates with people and being down to earth. But we forget that just doing that is not always going to give you that sale. It takes time. It takes having a good product, good price point, and the availability. They all work together. And, it depends on what the person is buying, what the price point is. And it also depends on age. That can really factor into, what someone is how they're going to operate when they go to purchase a product or your service. And so I just wanted to keep it real because I think a lot of times people get so caught up on this. They think that this is going to be the only thing they have to do, but it's a business, right? There's a lot more to it. You have to all work together. But when you can be that trusted person in your industry, it goes a very, very long way. And so when people do have that bad experience, they come looking for someone that they feel like they can trust. And eventually they will be with you for life. They will be lifelong customers. They will be loyal to your brand and they are going to go tell other people about your brand as well. So it's kind of a long play. It's not always a short-term thing. So you're like, that's great, but what does that actually look like? So share real experiences, use your testimonials, use reviews that you get. Another disclaimer here, is this going to get you a ton of likes on social media? Probably not. Most of the times that I have posted a testimonial or a review, it's gotten some likes, but it's not like the most amazing piece of content. But it's still important because when someone is going to make that purchase, if they're scrolling on your social media and they say, oh, that was a pretty good review, because a lot of times people are starting with social media. They might still go to like your Google business where you're looking at reviews, but it's good for them to kind of see it in the feed as well. What's even better is user-generated content. If you are not using that, you are really missing an opportunity. This is where people will tag you in a post, maybe giving you a shout out if you're selling a product or a service or whatever it is. That's free content for you. So make sure that you're not just letting it sit there, but do something with it, like it, comment, share it. And if they're willing, like some people, especially now, will put together a little reel for you about their experience. Like they go to a restaurant and they are just showing maybe their friends at the restaurant, but then it's showcasing your restaurant. So reach out, say, hey, I would love to have this piece of content. Would you be willing to share it with me? Most of those people like wanted you to reach out. If they put together a piece of content, whether it's a video, a photo, or even if it's just, a text, ask them if you can use that. And if maybe it needs a little bit more developing, maybe it's not like quite what you were looking for. I think a lot of people would be willing to like hear some feedback and say, hey, I love that you gave my product a shout out. Would you be willing to take a picture of it, you know, with your dog? I don't know, whatever it is that might like spice it up a little bit. People are really open to doing that, especially if they are posting about you. They are already bought in, like they're already loyal to you. They've already had a really good experience. So give them the chance to create this content. And now you've just gotten free content. Plus, it's going to really resonate with people in that are following you because they're like, oh, well, this user had a good experience. So it's already adding like a layer of trust without you really having to do anything. I do also feel like I have to disclaim, some people are doing that now. They're creating content for brands and they're tagging you in it, and you think it's out of the goodness of their heart. But a lot of the times it's kind of laying the foundation for them to get paid. So this has happened to me a few times in businesses that I've represented. They've put together something really nice and I've reached out, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. Thank you. Can I use this? Sure, here's my prices. And you're like, ah, okay. So that's that influencer marketing. And we can't harp on that too much because, you know, that's their business. That's how they make money. And they're good at what they do. They are getting sales, but they're going to want something in exchange. And when you run into that, you just have to decide, is it worth it for me or is it not? And I will just say that's like very rare. That's probably, especially like around here, you're probably not going to run into that as much, but just know that that does happen. Sometimes people will give you like that first free hook, but they're not going to let you actually like take it and run with it. And that's okay. You're still legally allowed to share it to your stories, to comment on it, like it. You can still do something with it. You just can't necessarily take it and use it for yourself. And then I'm sure you guys already know this, but don't over polish on social media. Like, people resonate with the imperfect. They don't want it to be staged or posed. They want to connect with something that feels like something they would be doing. You know, you're driving in the car, you're sitting at your desk, you're meeting with the client. Show that side, and don't worry so much about this like amazing commercial. You know, that content can still be used. And, you know, say that you do a beautiful video with professionals. That is great. You can put that in many different places. And it's not even that you can't use it on social media. It's just that you don't want that to look like all of your content. You want these down to earth pieces, these ones that look like you're holding your phone or you set it up on your tripod, whatever it is. Like, you want more of that and a little bit of the polished. So just make sure that, you know, I'm not saying don't do it, but just make sure that it is mostly this, you know, natural piece of content. Also filters, this is just a personal thing. They're kind of going away. They've been kind of going away. Like, we used to really have to like use the exact right filter and make sure that it was, you know, the right tone and all that. People don't really like that anymore, especially the younger, like Gen Z generation. We're kind of like done with that. They're like, yeah, that's weird. So you can put a little filter on it. You can maybe like make it a little bit brighter, but don't worry so much about finding like this perfect filter that you're putting over every single photo. Number 4, we need to make sure that we are educating and adding value. And I wanted to share, people come to social media, these are the top 2 things. It's to be entertained and it's to stay informed. Those are the top 2 things. So obviously we know we need to entertain. And I know that everyone feels like that's kind of hard to do in whatever industry you're in. As a business, it is very hard to think about how to entertain. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but you can definitely think of ways to inform. You can teach, you can educate. That's so important. People are coming to social media for that. So don't feel like, you know, oh, this is too boring. People don't care. They do, especially if they're on your page trying to learn about your product. They do care. So make sure that you are teaching, you're informing, but not selling. And this is hard because I think that a lot of us think, okay, I'm putting this piece of content out there. I have to put a call to action. I have to say book an appointment or head to my website or whatever it is. And those things aren't wrong, but I would just try to start thinking, okay, for every one piece of content that I'm selling, I'm going to give you 2 pieces of content where it's just information. It's not me trying to get you to do something. It's just me adding value to you. That is building that trust. So just be careful when you're selling. I know we have to do it. Obviously, we're in business, we have to sell, but you can still have that effect without adding some of those call to actions or those really like salesy posts. And then just for funsies, I wanted to tell you the other things that people come to social media in that order. So those were the top 2 things. And then finding inspiration, networking, and self-promotion, that's grouped into number 4. And number 5 is shopping and product discovery. So 5, where they're actually buying and looking for products, is all the way down there. So just make sure if you're kind of hitting those 2 first, the shopping will come, the product will come. And then last thing is just be consistent. If you're like, there is no way in heck I'm going to be able to post more than once a week, that's fine. Just post 1 time a week and be consistent in doing that. And that also means make sure that you're using the right colors, you're using your brand colors, you're using your the right imagery. Don't always use stock images. Use the right fonts. I think that we'll talk about this a little bit later, but Canva is a great tool, and I think you guys had a coffee coaching on that last month or a couple months ago. But Canva is a great resource, but just make sure that you're going in and giving the time to set up your brand so that you don't look like everybody else. Like at least your templates have your colors, your fonts, your imagery. That's really important. And being consistent on social media is still going to build that trust overall. So those are just a few ways to win trust. Biggest takeaway is be consistent. It'll build brand awareness, trust, and eventually that customer loyalty. So let's go ahead and jump into diversified content. This is just a few, this is not like an all-inclusive list, just a few ways to diversify your content. I'm going to run through them, and then in the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about it. But blogs, we already know that it is SEO boosting. They're not like these riveting pieces of content that people just can't wait to read, but it is showing you as an expert in your industry. It's helping you with your SEO. Videos, we know we're getting high engagement on those. Checklists and downloads, these are very valuable to the consumer, and which we'll talk about later. They can also be very valuable for you. Infographics are making a huge comeback. I feel like they were really done in like 2000s, early 2000s, and then people got tired of them, but they're making a big comeback because they're easy to digest. It's informative, but it's not like pages and lots of reading, and they have a huge save rate. People are saving them on Facebook, saving them on Instagram, or even just saving them to their phone. And then Instagram carousels, because they're interactive. It's showing, there's a reason to keep swiping. Don't just look at my one image, but learn more. It's interesting. It's entertaining. So these are just a few pieces of diversified content. And I think that a lot of the times, I think no matter if you do full-time marketing or part-time, or you just have like 1 hour a week, we all have like our favorite platforms. We're like, okay, I really like posting to Facebook. I'm just going to do that. And it's not that that's wrong. And sometimes that's just all the margin that we have. And that's okay. That is just so real. But I think that if we can try to find a way to diversify that content and repurpose some of that, we will see a much higher reach. And that's why it's so important. So let's jump into what that looks like. So bear with me, because this is kind of a long-winded statement. And I'm actually going to start over here with the facts. But when it comes to repurposing content, we have to really try to think about how to work smarter and not harder, because it is just so time consuming to put together content. I know a lot of you said that it's hard to get the content, and then it's also hard to put it into action. So try to start thinking of it this way. Say that you have a fact on your website and it's a question that you get asked all the time. How can you take that fact and turn it into a blog? So you're answering the same question, but you're just adding some content to it, getting a little more in depth. Then you're going to take that same blog and you're going to make it visual, turn it into a social media post, shorten it down, maybe take a really big, like, eye-catching piece of information from that blog and turn it into that. Well, now you have a visual and you have the content, you have the text. That's a layup for an email newsletter. Type it out, add that same graphic, or maybe it's that same photo. And now you've got a way to blast this out to your email list. You can take that same information and maybe now you give a tutorial. Maybe it's like a 2 to 3 minute video on how to do something. That can live on your website, that can go on your YouTube channel. It may even play okay on social media, but maybe not. Think about how you can take that long video and break it down into shorter clips. Maybe it's, a series. Hey, here's part 1 of how to do this. Stay tuned for part 2. Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't have time to break it down into 5 different pieces. So maybe you just do a short video and you just type text over the top of it. And that can be a reel for Instagram or a TikTok. And then you can take all that information. You've got the video, you've got the text, you've got the photo, and you can turn it into an infographic. And then a downloadable checklist. This is such a great resource for people because a lot of the times when it comes to this piece of downloadable information, it's got a lot of information, right? It's kind of like all of this stuff, but larger. So, your blog might just be a couple of paragraphs. This checklist is going to have a lot more information, but it's still the same concepts. But now you can add it to your website and you can say, hey, if you want this, I want your email. And people are willing to give you their email in exchange for something. It might be a checklist, it might be a coupon or a discount, but a lot of the times people will give you their email in exchange for something. Most people aren't giving it away for free anymore because they're like, okay, how many times am I going to get an email because I'm giving mine away? But if they can get something for it, they're a little bit more likely to give it to you. And then once you have that email, you can target them on Facebook ads. You can send them that email newsletter. You can track that they've been on your website. So it's really important to kind of think about, okay, yeah, that's a lot of pieces of content, but I used the same concept and it made planning a little bit easier. And I didn't have to recreate the wheel for every single piece of, or every single platform. Instead, you use the same concept and you did it for 6 different areas. So I know that's a little long-winded and maybe a little overwhelming, especially if you're not in marketing and maybe you don't even use all these platforms. That's okay. I wanted to walk through an example of this. So let's just start with Instagram carousel. So the easiest way to start implementing like this whole idea of diversifying your content and repurposing it is to start with your facts. And if you don't have any, that's okay. The easiest way to find out, like, what are people reaching out to me about? If you are not the person that answers your phone or like the face of your business, ask your receptionist, ask the person that answers your phone. I guarantee you, if you say, hey, what are like the 3 most common questions that we get asked? They will be able to spit them out right away. And if it's not them, then you know exactly, hey, these are like the 3 things that we get asked all the time. And maybe it's like, oh, well, but how do I talk about that? So like, maybe it's, what are your prices? Okay, well, we don't really want to run with that, but maybe it could be, how do I add value? Or what makes hiring me worth it? So sometimes you might have to stretch it a little bit, but it's still going to give you a basis. And anytime you do those like most common questions, they're going to be layups. They're going to be fantastic. They're going to perform well because you already know people are coming and looking for this information from you. So let's take a scenario, pretend you're a pest control company. This is not for a real business. And you get asked all the time, maybe it's not, how do I prevent ants from coming into my home? Maybe it's, do you treat ants? And then the answer would just be yes, and that'll be kind of boring. So how can you take it and do something with it? How do I prevent them from coming into my home? And just keep thinking about this through the lens of adding value, right? So we're not just saying, hey, we can treat ants for you. We're saying, hey, here's some steps for you to treat ants yourself. So first, let's think about an Instagram carousel. You want this to be something that makes people keep swiping. So instead of putting it all into maybe the first block, you're stretching it out into steps 1, 2, and 3, so people have a reason to keep swiping. So you're taking that fact from your website, you're turning it into an Instagram carousel. The next thing you can do is, hey, let's actually make a reel or a TikTok. So you're sitting there, you're planning out your content, you're trying to do all this at one time, and you're like, crap, I don't have a video of ants coming into my home. Well, that's fine. Most people probably wouldn't have that. So when you're sitting down to do this content, you're going to find like, oh, shoot, I don't have this or I don't have that. Don't make it so hard. Sometimes you can just use a piece of B-roll. Sometimes it can just be you talking directly to the camera sitting at your desk. But something that I do, and I know other people do in the industry, is just constantly be taking B-roll. Say that you're out taking a walk and the sun is setting. That's excellent. Take that shot. That you can put anything over that. If you're walking with your kids, get them from the back, just walking down the street or whatever it is. Like, people overcomplicate reels, I think, and there's so much just like available content already on your phone that you can slap text over and add a trending audio. It will still perform so well. It might even perform better because it's a little bit more eye-catching than ants. So, in this scenario, and I don't have sound on this, but you still take that same information that was in your Instagram reel, but you're just laying it out a little bit differently. And there's so many ways that you can do that. You could put step 1, 2, and 3. You can have each thing pop up at different seconds, but that's just literally the most simple version to do it. And all you have to do is take that and add a trending audio. And if you're not familiar with how to do that, just go into Instagram and go to the audio section, and it'll pop up with a trending tab, and it'll tell you if it's trending. And I know that still might seem like a lot, and I don't want to say that that's easy. I'm just saying it is so much easier than having to get this very specific piece of content for one thing. Just find a B-roll on your phone, add some text over it, boom, you have an Instagram reel or a TikTok. So now we're going to take still that same information, and you're just going to make it a little bit longer. So instead of just the 3 steps over here in the downloadable resources, you're going to make it just a little bit more informative. Maybe there's 2 more steps you can add. So instead of 3, it's 5. So you're still not having to think too much harder, but you're just adding a little bit to it. You're dropping it into a Canva document, and you can add this to your website. It lives on your website under that protection of, hey, give me your email in exchange for this. And like I said, now when you're getting those emails, you are able to retarget them through a Facebook ad. You can upload those emails to your Facebook, and you can target people that look like them. You can target them on your Facebook ad. You can also put that into a MailChimp or whatever you use to send out your emails, and you can send them more information. Hey, how'd that ant-free resource go? Is it not working for you? Please hire us. You can think about different ways to target them. You've already given them something for free, so now you can be a little bit more salesy. And so it's very important. And I think sometimes we miss out on this type of content because it does take a little bit more work. You have to think a little bit harder. Plus now you have to add it to your website, but you get a lot in return for it. So it's definitely worth considering. And even if you only do this 2 times a year, if you do one piece of content the first 6 months and a different piece of content the second, it is so worth it. You don't have to do this every single month. And then let's go to Facebook. And I know some of you are like, well, can't you post the same thing to Facebook that you do Instagram? Yes, you can. And a lot of times it works fine, but sometimes it doesn't. So in the Instagram carousel, You see how if we were to put all of that into Facebook, it would have chopped off like half of those words and it would have just looked really messy. It would have been hard to read and people would have been like, what is even that? It looks like a gray blob. Here, we've kind of got it formatted a little bit differently. We don't have a ton of text on the words, on the photos. So you're like, okay, well, where's the information going? This is a great place to add it to the caption, right? Still write those 3 out, but put it in the caption instead. Then if you want to take it a step further, you can say for the last 2 ways to have an ant-free home, head to our website. And now you're linking this downloadable resource back to your website so that people can give you their email so that you can retarget them later. And even if they don't download the resource, but they just go to your website, you most likely are still going to be able to track them on Facebook later just because they clicked through to your website or they interacted with the link on your Facebook. So it's still a win. So I know that all might feel a little overwhelming. And I want to be realistic and say that it definitely is not easy. And even though I've been doing this for a long time, and I do have some cheat codes on how to do it that I just shared with you, it's still not easy. It is still a challenge. And so how to actually implement this into your routine, no matter like where you're at, I would say the first thing is identify those facts. Start there. You've probably got a small list already in your head. You might already do this. If you aren't sure, if you're like maybe not the person that's talking to clients as much in your business, ask someone that does. And then just choose 2 to 3 to get started. Like I just gave you 10, and that's going to feel overwhelming. So think, okay, you know what? This year, the next 6 months, I really want to focus on my Facebook. I want to focus on my website, and I want to focus on adding blogs to help me show up more in algorithm. That's great. Take those examples I just gave you, and every time you go to plan out your content, think in terms of buckets. I have these 3 pieces. I have these 3 buckets, these 3 places that I want to focus on content. How am I going to take this fact or this concept and make it relevant in each area? That's going to cut down on your planning and on how you're implementing so much easier. And then use free tools. Like I said, we already talked about Canva. Please make sure you're adding in your brand so that it doesn't look like everybody else's. CapCut is a great resource. It is a video editor for those reels. Quick note on that. CapCut is great if you need a template, if you need to do something maybe a little bit unique. But if you can edit your reels inside of Instagram and you don't need a template or you don't need to do something that maybe Instagram doesn't allow for, please use Instagram. And I say that, same thing for TikTok. Use TikTok to create the reel. It's a little bit annoying, but the algorithm, the Instagram algorithm and the TikTok algorithm, they like knowing that content is made in their platform. It's very annoying. But if you're really trying to get up in that algorithm, make it in there. You can even kind of edit the video down to what you need it to look like. And then just the very last step, maybe you need to add text over it. Just add that text in Instagram, add that text in TikTok. It'll just help a little bit with the algorithm.
So you're saying that we could do the video and then download the video into Instagram, edit it, and then that'll be fine.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. And as a full disclaimer, there's times where I am just like, I have to make this in CapCut because I need X, Y, and Z. And it still performs fine. It's not the end of the world, but I just feel like I wanted you guys to know it does favor when you're making it in the platform. And then ChatGPT, we talked about that a little bit. Really great, super helpful. I will also say, just to help it go further, if you don't have an account in ChatGPT, make sure you're making one because it learns you, especially if you have memory on. And I think that it's on as a default. It could be wrong on that. But when you put in, like, it starts to learn you. So instead of saying, hey, you're a pest control company, we're going back to that. Hey, can you give me like 10 post ideas, for my pest control company? It's not wrong, but it's going to give the same answer to the next pest control company. So instead of just being general like that, say, hey, I'm a pest control company in Dover, Delaware. I need ideas for the month of July. Can you take into consideration any local events or holidays that might be relevant to my brand? And can you use the tone of voice? I like to be professional, but friendly and easy to digest. Give ChatGPT something to go off of, because now you're going to get these very niche specific ideas instead of looking like the next pest control company. And the more that you do that, the more that you teach ChatGPT who you are, which sounds really weird, but the more that you do that, you won't have to ask it that same question over time. It'll learn who you are. You can say, hey, for my pest control company, that way, this is giving you specific ideas and not these generalized thoughts. And then I'm sure you guys are all doing this, but schedule content in Meta Business Suite. It's going to cut down on your time. You're sitting down, you're scheduling everything, you're getting it out of the way, ideally a month in advance. And we used to have to do all this research into the best days and times to post. If you go on Meta Business Suite, it just tells you now, hey, your people are on time at 7 p.m. on Sunday nights. Great. Go ahead and schedule all your content for the times that it's telling you to do. It's just going to cut down on your time again and make things a little bit easier. So key takeaways for the day: work on diversifying your content. It's going to help you reach that broader audience. Repurpose the content so you're not recreating the wheel every single time you go to sit down and work on a piece of content for all these different formats. And remember, a single idea can be turned into so many pieces of content. Don't think people are tired of seeing it. You are the expert. So they're coming to you to hear about something specific. They're not going to get tired of it. That's what they're expecting from you. So I know that was a lot of information, and I know we're really tight on time, but are there any questions that you guys have?
We have one. This is Shauna Steinman from Ronald McDonald House.
Yes.
How, and I know you touched on this briefly, but how do we create content about, like, a lot of my job down here is phone calls and emails, and I try to get out on the road 4 out of the 5 days a week, but how do I create content to be like, hey, this is what our nonprofit does, but I'm also just sending emails and phone calls?
Absolutely. I think that right now there's a huge trend of spend a day with me. I don't know if you've seen those, but it can literally be as simple as having a tripod set up of you answering phones, answering emails. Take it with you on the road. Hey, I'm going to do this. And I'm sure there's a little sensitivity of, like, you can't probably say exactly what you're doing, but if you can be general enough to let people inside, like, have the inside scoop. People love to know how businesses run, especially like businesses like yours. And I don't know if you would have the ability, but you do it yourself. Show a typical, spend a Monday with me, spend a whatever day with me. And then you can even take that same content that you're grabbing, and maybe it's just, you've put together a day in the life. Well, now take a same clip from that day and do a text overlay. Hey, did you know we do this, this, and this? You can still kind of repurpose that content. And if you can get other people that you work with to do the same thing and showcase, like, hey, this is what this job does here. People are interested. It doesn't have to just be you or just one person. It can be tons of different people. They like to see kind of what goes on behind the scenes. And again, it can be very easy. It doesn't even have to be long. Don't focus on getting every single piece of your day. But people love that. Literally show what you had for lunch. People, they're interested.
I love that. I am not great on video, nor do I want to be, unfortunately. Does it capture just as well through photos, or no?
I would say probably not just as well, but I think that there is still things you can do. And also, I don't know, I know you say you don't like to be on video. I find that a lot for a lot of clients. Sometimes it takes the pressure off if you don't have to talk. And so even if it's not like a straight on, video, but it's maybe like you working and your camera's to the side and all they can kind of see is like your profile or something like that. I think sometimes maybe that takes the pressure off, like, oh, I don't have to talk. Or if you're like, well, I'm not opposed to talking, but I don't want to look at the camera and talk. Well, do a voiceover, record yourself throughout the day, just, not talking, and then go back later and add a voiceover. That performs really well too. If you're not quite sold on the video, you can certainly do photos. I know that there's like some trends right now that are going around. Like, I don't know if you've seen the text overlays on photos, like the POV ones, or honestly, even doing a POV could be kind of cool. Like, point of view, you work for the Ronald McDonald House, and then it's a swipe through of what that day looks like. I don't know if it would perform as well, but I certainly think that it would be a good take on it in a photo format.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Of course. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I don't want to end the meeting abruptly, but I do just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I hope that it was helpful. I know there was a lot of information. If you do have any follow-up questions, I'm always available at a later time too.
Thank you, Tessa. And I want to let everyone know we are thinking about moving coffee coaching till 9 a.m. So I'm hoping everybody likes that time because I think that's the majority of what everybody has said. And if anyone ever has any ideas or what they like to hear about, I will look for those people to do a presentation. I also want to thank everyone for coming, and I will email over the video, and you can always find all these coffee coachings on our website under the education and then coffee coaching. There's a bunch of them. So help yourself, go watch them, refresh what you've learned, because this was a lot and it was great.
Thanks.
A lot of great information.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Do you guys want to just introduce yourselves really quick? It doesn't look like anyone's in a hurry. We can start with Mike. Just say where you're from and who you are, and Mike Green. Maybe
can go.
Shauna.
Simon, I'm from the Ronald McDonald House Charities. I work remotely. My area is Kent and Sussex County. I do community engagement for the house in Southern Delaware.
Jennifer. No. Anybody else? They're signing on.
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah,
Oh,
now we
okay.
can.
Sometimes my audio messes up. Hi, I'm Sal Watson. I work for Bally's Dover in financial planning and analysis. This was awesome. This is like a pet project for me. I want to start engaging on social media. So this has been great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Got anyone? Anybody else? Okay. Tessa, if you ever come up with something else that you can do another one, let me know.
Oh yeah, I've always got ideas up there.
Anything to help our members. I mean,
Sure.
this was good. There's things on here I didn't even know existed.
Well, good. I'm glad.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day and see you at the next coffee coaching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.